Halftime Rants, where we go back to back on your football topics. It's your guy Mike.
There's all.
And yeah, man, let's get into it. It was an action-packed Champions League quarter-final.
Yeah.
Well, how are you feeling, man?
Nah, man, it's good. What's it called, man? It's been a good round, obviously. Like, we look at Inter Milan, Bayern. We're going to talk about Inter Milan, Bayern. We're going to talk about PSG, Villa, Arsenal, Madrid, of course.
Yeah, the big one.
And obviously Barca, Dortmund as well. But yeah, where should we start, man?
You know what? Let's go PSG Villa. Let's go PSG Villa. Yeah, man. What we thinking? What are thoughts on that one?
Well, you see, after like the first leg, I thought, do you remember even in the other, what we were talking about in the last video?
The predictions,
where I was saying to you that I felt like Aston Villa are going to give them a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
The way they performed in the second leg, that's how I felt like Villa were going to perform in the first leg as well.
Right.
Yeah, but I think if you see, because when I remember like the first leg, Villa started really well. They did well in the first half. The mistake they made, if you remember, right as soon as the second half started, I think they conceded not too long because they started opening up and then they got countered and they conceded straight away.
Yeah.
And then I think they made another mistake for when they conceded again. But they corrected a lot of it in the second leg. That's how I expected them to play. In the second leg, I expected them to create chaos in that game, and that's how Unai Emery likes to play when it's end to end. Because he always has his attackers centrally. He has a lot of attackers in there. The fullbacks are overlapping and things like that. And then he's going back to back. You're going back to back, and he's always using very physical and quick plays in transition. I felt like that's what was going to happen the whole time, and I felt like they would have enough firepower to trouble PSG a lot, and that's what we saw in the second leg. The issue was it was the mistakes they made in that first leg. That's what ended up costing them in the end.
So what do you think? What do you think happened? What do you think it was? Do you think it was nerves? Do you think it was just tactically? Maybe Emery got a bit complacent. Do you think it was just natural momentum of the tie? Or do you think it was?
I'm not sure what happened in the second leg, because to me personally, I feel like
I mean in the first leg.
Because
Villa started off very bright.
Yeah.
Morgan Rogers got the first goal, right? You know, and to me it seems PSG just slowly just took the game away from Villa.
That's what I was trying to say. I think the biggest mistake happened in the start of the second half. I don't know why they came out the way they did. It's like they just opened up too quickly in that second half. I feel like they needed to settle. Because if you remember in the first half, the way they were defending, I was saying that PSG are having chances, but they were having to shoot from outside the box.
Yeah.
Like Villa had them there, and they were man marking them as well. What's his name? Kamara was doing a really good job of like blocking all the gaps. It's like obviously like Villa played with a back four, but Kamara kept tucking in to make it like a back five essentially.
Yeah.
And obviously what PSG tried to do is they have their wingers that stretch you all the way wide, but then they stretch you and they try to exploit the gaps because they don't have a natural striker. They have to do everything based on attacking those spaces in between the fullback and the centre back. And I felt like they did that really well in the first half, but I just don't understand what happened so quick in the second half, because I think PSG scored, what was it? Was it 3-1, isn't it? I just don't understand how everything just changed for them. But you can see for me in the second leg, that was actually what Villa. That's what I'm expecting them to do. But of course, like they put themselves at such a deficit that it was hard for them to come back. But it was still a great performance in the second leg.
I think my thoughts on that. So if I go back to the first leg, right, I think Villa started off bright. I think we'll do PSG a bit of disservice if we just focus on what Villa did wrong. The first two PSG goals were just outstanding bits of quality. Desiree Doué, bro. I doff my hat off to you. I doff my hat off to you because the strike was absolutely top bins, and like I can't even really point to like a real mistake. You know, it was just a quality strike. I would say it was unfortunate. Kvaratskhelia, another moment of quality.
Yeah. The way he rolled it as well. The way he rolled it.
Who was it he rolled? Was it Disasi? And Disasi was a sub. He didn't start that game. He came on the pitch. So there's an argument to say that Disasi, because he didn't start the match, he might have not been warm, and he got caught flat-footed, which is what happened. Kvaratskhelia absolutely rolled him, and that was another just roofed it. Maybe.
No, but that was an excellent strike. Though.
It was an excellent strike. It was near post,
range, full power. Yeah,
it was near post. So maybe arguably keeper. You never really want to get beaten at your near post. But again, it was a flash moment of brilliance, and before you know it, all your structure and shape is out the window because you're 2-1 down now. To 2 moments of quality. So I wouldn't begrudge Villa for losing the lead in that tie. But where they went wrong is allowing the third goal. Nuno Mendes, the third goal to happen, because that was literally 92nd minute. The match is about to die. Keep it tight. Don't concede the third. Then you bring them back to Villa Park, and you're only a goal down. But
I don't think they Villa then in terms of for me the actual tactics when they started the game was really good. They was solid. It's just that there was certain spells in the game where they made certain mistakes and it cost them badly. Because if you look at that when they considered late in the first leg, it's because they started pushing up even more towards the end of the game.
To try to get the equaliser.
Exactly, when they should have just accepted the 2-1. Do you get it? And just kept it there and take it back home. They should have just stayed solid.
That's true.
They should have just the game was done. Just accept the 2-1, take it back home. Because I always feel like when they get back home, use the same tactics you did in the first half.
Yeah.
But just take away the little mistakes, and you guys can actually punish them to get. But they made that mistake. They tried to get more than what they were going to leave with, and they ended up conceding.
So what do you think happened at the start of the second leg? Because
I think that was desperation.
Because Villa Park was absolutely rocking. I don't think it's desperation. I think Villa Park was rocking, and the Villa team tried to play to the atmosphere.
Because the other thing is they were very high as well. When at the same time there were some mistakes as well. Like because at the end of the day, when two fullbacks are scoring, you know what I mean. That means your defensive line wasn't the best. There was mistakes there, but again, I think that was also desperation. They were 3-1 down. I think if they were 2-1 down, they wouldn't have approached it so quickly. They would have taken their time.
That's true.
They would have taken their time to get into the game properly. So I think that last goal from the first leg pretty much cost them the whole tie, because that's why they approached the way they approached in the second leg.
I get
I think that was the biggest mistake there, because once they also then realized that okay, the tie is over and let's play, they ended up scoring 3.
Now you make a good point there, because at 3-1 it's almost like we need to make every minute count.
Exactly.
So we need to come out, goal guns blazing. We need to, kind of make the stadium a cauldron, basically. Just try and overwhelm them. And in doing that, PSG, I think they rode the early storm and just got the first goal and quieted the crowd.
Exploit the space, because the thing with PSG is this year is like, they've got very technical players, you know what I mean? So if you give them too much space, they're just going to exploit you. You have to find ways to create an end-to-end kind of situation, but at the same time you still have to be defensively secure as well. But I feel like Aston Villa, they didn't have the momentum to get into that state, because once they started getting the momentum in the second half and they started playing the way they started playing, and that's when they started scoring all 3 goals. However, when they gained the momentum, they were also defending well at the same time. Whilst in the start of the game, they had no momentum. They just went in there trying to score straight away. Do you know what I mean? And that cost them. But even if we're talking about PSG's, what we're talking about, PSG's midfield and the physicality of the team and how it was exposed. I mean, I always feel like, you see with Villa, when the way Villa create chaos in games, and Unai Emery, we've seen it with Arsenal as well, the way he's able to create chaos and create this end-to-end situation, and he has a lot of these very physical players, it kind of showed the vulnerability of PSG as well. Because PSG, they're a very good team, play great football. They play with no strikers, no defensive midfielder, just all eights in their midfield and all wingers up top. However, when you end up in these kind of games where your physicality is being tested, it showed the lack of a defensive mid. On obviously, what's his name? What's the Spanish midfielder that they have?
Fabian
Ruiz, yeah. Even though he's a physical presence, he's still a box to box. He's not really a defensive mid. So it shows that they don't have a reference.
They don't have a screen for the back four.
Exactly, yeah. They don't have a screen for the back. When you're in an end-to-end game, you need an anchor right there. Guys like Vitinha and Joao Neves, they're more like box to box. They move around to get creative players on the ball. They consume. But if you're getting to end-to-end situation and you need legs in there, or you need someone to be like the physical presence in there, they don't have that. Meanwhile, Villa were having guys like Onana in there on the pitch. Kamara, Onana, even Tielemans McGinn was running. McGinn ran through the whole midfield.
McGinn was quality
to score. Do you see what I mean? He ran through the whole midfield to go and score. And then also the other thing is when you're also under pressure as well, because the momentum is with Villa, they didn't have no reference in attack. Obviously, them playing with all wingers, we've praised that already before, like Dembele, Kvara, and what's his name, Barcola as well, and Dewey. We've praised them having all these wingers, but when you're under pressure and you need to release the ball, you need a target. You see what I mean? And they never had that target. They just kept trying to catch Villa on the counter, but the momentum was against them.
So I think what we're saying, PSG struggled to wrestle momentum back. And that's a potential weakness of theirs.
I think it's a potential weakness, because when you lack reference, in on certain parts of the pitch, it's very hard to regain momentum. Even Real Madrid, who we see as very a team that has that plays off a lot of momentum in the past in terms of the Champions League, what we've seen them do. They still had the basics. They still had a Benzema who was a target. Do you get, like, even when they were trying to play through Liverpool's high press back in the days when they won the Champions League, they still had that reference up top. They still had Casemiro. You know, they still had these anchors throughout the whole team. And I feel like PSG lacked that. Even their defenders, Marquinhos is the main guy, but even he's also not the most dominant defender as well. So I feel like they rely on everything going in their favour, playing the way they need to play, and everything goes their way and they can perform. But like, you can see that if you make them uncomfortable and turn the game into a more physical game, you can expose them a little bit.
Fair point, man. Fair point. I think we both picked PSG to come out of that tie, But we did say that we think Villa would cause them some stress,
get them trouble,
which they did. To be fair, it wasn't as straightforward as it appeared to be after the first leg. So yeah, fair enough.
And another thing, that goalkeeper Donnarumma, that guy is so questionable to me, man.
Yeah, he's always been questionable, but I have to praise him this so far though. He's done well.
But even when they didn't concede, there were situations. I think I remember one time when the ball was in the air and he literally pushed it back into play. He's always making mistakes. I don't get it. He's not like the certain keepers like if you look at Courtois, for example, like we should have Arsenal should have trashed Real Madrid in the first leg. Do you know what I mean? If not for him, but he keeps everything tight. Donnarumma just causes
There's
problems.
always a window of opportunity,
exactly,
and Donnarumma's in goal.
Yeah.
Right.